Hi, I'm Frondoza, a graduate student of UP Diliman. Today, I will be presenting a security analysis for our course in Security in Asia Pacific, taught by the brilliant Dean Santarita. So let's begin. The presentation today is aptly entitled The New Normal Terrorism, Philippines-Indonesia-Malaysia Border Security Dynamics under COVID-19. The three objectives of the analysis are to contribute to policy discourse in neutralizing terrorism in the tri-border area, which is TBA, create an accurate picture of terrorism in the area, distinguish the fundamental functions of the Trilateral Cooperation Agreement, the TCA, and explain the gains it has attained, and possibly provide recommendations on areas for improvement. Discussion points will revolve around the what, how, and who of terrorism in the TBA. Why does terrorism in the TBA still thrive under the new normal? How is the TCA addressing these security threats? And further steps to completely neutralize these terrorist threats under the COVID-19 era. Now, before we proceed to the discussion points, let's just clarify first where specifically the tri-border area is. Now, as described in the map on the right, the tri-border area lays within the convergence of Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, and Sulu-Celebes Sea. This area serves as a vital shipping route for commodities, manufactured goods, and raw materials for the three states. Another aspect of the analysis is the new normal era. COVID-19 is by far the most encompassing and comprehensive security issue of our time. It has impacted regional security in all of the 7 continents and pervaded every dimension of its societies. Even so, terrorism persists. Even so, in the TBA. Now, the terrorists in the TBA are hit anywhere, hit anytime force. They are highly mobile and adaptable, with loose autonomous communications and logistics, a wanton disregard to national boundaries, and criminally enterprising know-how. These are the hallmarks of the terrorists in the area. Now, in a recent interview with Vice Asia, Southeast Asia security expert Sidney Jones depicts these non-state actors as an evolving threat that has more similarity with criminal syndicates than with secessionist groups. She even mentions the Philippine terror group Abu Sayyaf as an example of using methods of terror, particularly kidnappings and beheadings of foreign and Philippine nationals, to gain economic profits while shrouding these acts as politically and religiously motivated. Of course, political motivations are centered under the pretext of Sabah claims of Sulu Sultanate and the Moro people's independence in Mindanao, with religious motivations centered in the establishment of an Islamic caliphate in East Asia, seen in the 2017 Marawi conflict. Now, enriching this discussion is the legal historical record of terrorism in the tri-border area, going as far back to a Philippine Supreme Court en banc ruling in the 1920s, where the terrorists were called by their previous name, pirates. This is where Lolo and Sarao looted the Dutch ship Peta and raped one of the Dutch passengers, which eventually escaped. The historic Supreme Court ruling resulted in the imposition of the death penalty by hanging of Lolo and Sarao on the grounds of piracy and rape, and further adds, and I quote, the two appellants, together with Kinawalang and Mawalanis, defendants in another case, shall indemnify jointly and severely the offended parties in the equivalent of 924 rupees and shall pay a one-half part of the costs, both instances. So ordered. End of quote. This ruling evidently presents that even going back as far as 100 years, there was an open practice of terrorism, which at the time was called piracy in the TBA. Going back to our previous picture, let us remember that the TBA is a border that stretches across the archipelagic Philippines and Indonesia with the peninsular Malaysia and Sulu Celebes Sea, covering 900,000 square kilometers and totals to $40 billion worth of annual trade. Its vastness, porous borders, and prosperous trade are a conducive mix that is bound to have various groups and factions vying and plying their interest in the area. Now, in the next slides, we will be referring to the 2018 book of Mu Naduddin, which details the prevalent modern-day terror groups in the TBA, their active and killed in action leaders, and criminal activities in the area. On the Philippines, there is the Mauti Group, also known as the Islamic State of Lanao. The group was neutralized during the Marawi Siege of 2017 with its leader, Omar Maute, who was eventually replaced by Uwaida Benito Marhomsar, also known as Abu Dar, in May 2018. He was killed in action also in March 2019 due to the pursuit of Philippine security forces. Also, Abu Sayyaf Group is a group in the Philippines, also known as the Islamic State of East Asia Province, whose leader, Endemir Isnilon Hapilon, was also killed in the Marawi siege. His eventual replacement, Andul Jihad Idang Susukan, surrendered to the Philippine National Police on August 2020 through the Moro National Liberation Front chairman, Nur Miswari. The picture on the right is a screen grab from a handout video released by the Philippine Army on June 18, 2017, showing Abdullah Maute, brother of Omar Maute, standing over at an improvised map of Marawi, while Isnilon Hapilon, second to the left, looks on as they plan to attack Marawi at an undisclosed location on Mindanao. Malaysia now remains to be the transit hub of kidnap for ransom activities perpetrated by ASG and ISIS-related groups, particularly in the province of Sabah. To date, there has been 40 reported kidnapping attempts off Sabah's shorelines and waters. This is due in part to the repatriation policy offered by Malaysian citizens who fought in Syria. These jihadists are allowed to go back to Malaysia through the visa waiver program, providing easy and quick access to the TBA, making the state a safe haven and a strategic logistics center for terror groups in the region. According to the U.S. Department of State Bureau of Counterterrorism 2019 report, the Pan-Malaysia Islamic Party, or the PAS, and in Malay, Parti Islam se Malaysia, is the leading Islamist political party of Malaysia, headed by its party leader, Datuk Seri Abdul Hadi Awang. PAS is the current ruling power in the country's parliament, elected by its power base of radical Islamic hardliners supportive of terror organizations in the Southeast Asian region. Awang is seen in the picture with a green sarong, white takiya, and black glasses. Indonesia, on the other hand, has the Jamaah Ansaradu Daulah. It is the largest and most influential pro-Islamic state terror group in the country. Its founder and spiritual leader, Aman Abdurrahman, was convicted and executed in 2018 for masterminding deadly militant attacks across the world's largest Muslim majority population. The group's emir and national leader, Zainal Ansori, seen in the picture, was convicted in June of the same year for smuggling firearms from Mindanao to Indonesia. Saiful Muntohir, also known as Abu Gar, emir of JD Ambon and head of Ashkari Paramilitary Division, the armed wing of JD, was arrested and became a key state witness in Abdurrahman's trial. Security experts in the region later concluded that the execution of JD's founder, Aman Abdurrahman, will pave the way for resurgence of the group, as JD supporters currently see their founder as a martyr killed by an adversarial government. So why does terrorism and the TBA still thrive under the new normal? As mentioned in the Nautilus Institute article, and I quote, lax maritime rules and regulations, poverty, the impact of ecological degradation and overfishing, with the existence of organized crime groups and radically politically motivated organizations in the region are conducive to the occurrence of terrorism in the area. End quote. Notwithstanding the popularity of these political parties who eventually won national seats in their governments, the leaders of these parties passed policies supportive of terrorist activities. This establishes the legitimacy of terror groups, further embedding them in their communities within the TBA. Further still is the aftermath of the 2017 Marawi crisis, which devastated thousands of its inhabitants' livelihood and displaced families to refugee camps. Exacerbating the matter are the delays in the recovery and rehabilitation of the city. This, combined with the socioeconomic impacts of the successive lockdowns of the previous months, stokes the fire of grievances of Marawi's population, a recipe that terror groups such as the ASG have already taken advantage of. Shown in the picture are Marawi citizens conducting their morning prayer or salah in the refugee camps. The previous slides made it clear that delays in addressing the confluence of non-military and military security issues open the opportunity for terrorism to thrive even under the new normal. The historical practice of piracy in the area, coupled with religious motivations reinforced by the political legitimacy of radical groups, economically incentivize terrorism in the TBA. Given that billions of dollars of trade passes through the area, the TBA provides the perfect scenario conducive for acts of terrorism and organized transnational crimes to continue amidst the pandemic. Now, we will discuss how the TCA addresses these security threats, including the successes it has achieved and areas for improvement. Now, the TCA was signed by three defense chiefs of the three partner states. Indonesian Defense Minister Rayamizard Rayakudu, former Philippine Defense Minister Voltaire Gasmin, and Malaysian Defense Minister Haji Muhammad bin Sabu in May 2016 to create a multilateral security platform for conducting joint patrols and intelligence sharing between their states. This was due to the spate of kidnap for ransom activities of the Abu Sayyaf against foreigners. Now, incidentally, the Marawi crisis of May 23, 2017 had been the catalyst for the full operationalization of the TCA. It has now put terrorism as the main consideration. This mostly maritime patrol agreement was further expanded by the involvement of air, land, military assets to secure the Sulu Sea, located to the northeast of Borneo and southwest of the Philippines. This was in light of the discovery of no less than 32 foreign fighters who were able to join the multi-ASG forces during the 5-month Marawi siege. All foreign fighters were believed to have fought for ISIS in Syria and Iraq, entering the Philippines through the porous backdoor borders of the TBA. In terms of progress attained by the TCA, the ruling leadership of Manila, Kuala Lumpur, and Jakarta have implemented strategic refocus and enacted supporting security policies in their concerned areas, with the TCA as the main military security platform. As mentioned in the 2019 presentation of Professor Batong Bakal, and I quote, conducting coordinated marine patrols, framing the standard operation procedures for immediate assistance for people and ships in distress, establishing national focal points for sharing information and intelligence, and laying structural communications through direct hotline for law enforcement and military forces among the tri-state areas are the main points espoused by the TCA. End of quote. Further details per state partner of these gains will be discussed on the following slides. On the Philippine side, with Abu Sayyaf as the most active terror group within the TBA, no thanks to its strategic position in the area, the bandits have become the focal point of military maneuvers for Philippine security forces within the TBA. On the operational level, the Armed Forces of the Philippines Modernization Program, which was a plan crafted in 1995 and was revived in 2012, plays a key role in strengthening the branches of the Philippine forces. With the arrival of 6 Super A-29 Warthog Super Tucanos for the Philippine Air Force, the Philippine Navy's activation of 4 more amphibious assault vehicles, and the 3 additional multi-purpose attack crafts strengthens the patrol capabilities of the Philippine forces in the area. And lastly, as the picture on the right illustrates, construction of the Philippine Marine Detachment's 29th MC in Panguan, Tawi-Tawi is another game, the last island of the Philippines closest to the Malaysian border. The implementation of President Joko Widodo's Global Maritime Fulcrum vision serves the Indonesia's PCA interests. It enhances inter-island connectivity through infrastructure developments and protects maritime resources, increasing Indonesia's economy. Also supporting this is the vessel sinking policy in its maritime borders, wherein any discovered parties conducting illegal activities in the nation's seas will be sunk and its crew taken into Indonesia's custody. At the national policy level, the joint declaration by the President of the Republic of Indonesia and the President of the Republic of the Philippines on cooperation to ensure maritime security in the Sulawesi Sea makes this the forefront of national interest. Makes the TCA the forefront of national interest. Beside its structural security impacts, it serves as the unequivocal statement by the two state leaders condemning terrorist acts in their countries and within the TBA. Now on Malaysia's side, uh, as the state's national security interest focuses on developing marine Sabah as an ecotourist destination, which makes it a part of the state's national key economic area. The state security forces have also accelerated their visibility in the province, establishing a dedicated command called the Eastern Sabah Security Command, or the ESSCOM. The command's forces also received a significant upgrade in their land, sea, and air defense, enhancing their patrol capabilities in the Eastern Sabah Security Zone, or the ESS Zone. On the right is the Sabatun Sakaran Marine Park. Now, despite these substantial gains from the TCA, there are still terror attacks happening in today's new normal. Seen on the right is the 2020 Holo Cathedral bombing in the Philippines, which killed 14 civilians and wounded 75. While in Indonesia, the March 28, 2021 Makassar Cathedral bombing happened as Indonesian Christians were celebrating Palm Sunday and eventually injuring 20 people. This begs one to ask, what further steps must be taken to completely neutralize these terrorist threats under the COVID-19 era? To answer this, one must start at the alignment of tri-state policies, curtailing the manpower supply of the terror groups. The repatriation policy of jihadists from Syria and Iraq conflict areas must be revised. An example is an analysis the Washington-based think tank Middle East Institute states in their 2020 November 24 article, and I quote, Malaysia extends offers of repatriation to its citizens who have fought in Syria on the condition that upon return, they undergo a month-long rehabilitation program. Experts have questioned the efficacy of this program as several high-profile militants, such as Yazid Sufat and Rafi Udin, who participated in it, showed little signs of rehabilitation and engaged in recidivist behavior. End of quote. Aligning the tri-states repatriation policy will take out the physical sanctuary perception for these jihadists who see the TBA as safe havens, and further the terroristic uh, pan-Islamic causes. Now, iterations are also needed for the relatively new TCA. A combination of military and non-military security approaches are best in continually improving its effectiveness. One of which, military solution, is the best practices exchange. This allows an increase in the joint exercises that is conducted, reaping short and long-term benefits for the TCA partner agencies. The benefits of which will not only sharpen the intelligence, detection, and interdiction capabilities of the tri-state forces, but also strengthen the cultural camaraderie of the tri-state armed forces and enabling agencies, a crucial attribute in neutralizing transnational terrorists who know neither nationality nor borders. Another one is military solution is the tri-state joint military exercises similar to Balikatan, which is a joint exercise on a grander scale, not only shows the solidarity of the tri-states, but also the political unity of its current leadership. Having a platform that regularly frames this message can be a major deterrent in the recruitment of its citizens. On the non-military recommendations, there is the whole of nations approach. This refers to a synchronized tri-state development initiative that addresses the non-military community issues in their respective areas within the TBA. This also adheres to recognizing the historical ethno-context of the conflict, unique to each step, prioritizing areas such as education, livelihood, public health, and environmental stewardship. Once successful, this lessens the incentives of individuals, regardless of affiliation or origin, to conduct terrorism, drastically reducing the support the terror groups receive from local community. Another one is increased community involvement. Through local governments of the tri-state, a call can be made for increased vigilance on communities along the TBA coastlines. An emphasis on vigilance will be tantamount to not only protection from terrorist activities, but also the spread of COVID-19, with the practical reasoning that the unregulated movements of the terror groups might easily bring COVID-19 to their homes and families. This type of framing is a two-pronged approach that neutralizes the local influence of these groups, shutting the support of communities to these groups due to health security reasons. Now, in conclusion, terrorism in the TBA is driven by a complex confluence of factors, exacerbated by the socio-economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. It is best to use military solutions to attain short-term successes and non-military mechanisms to sustain them. A strong grassroots community involvement is needed to further eradicate the plague of new normal terrorism. Thank you.